My husband wiped out our son's entire college savings and vanished with his lover. I thought my world had ended until our 14-year-old gave me a knowing look and said, "Mom, relax. I've already dealt with this." 3 days later, my phone rang with my husband's panicked voice on the other end. I found Thomas shoving clothes into a leather weekend bag, moving with the frantic energy of someone fleeing a crime scene. It was 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. He should have been getting ready for work. "Thomas, what are you doing?" Silence. Not even a glance in my direction, just the methodical stuffing of dress shirts and khakis into an already overpacked bag. "Thomas, I'm talking to you." "I'm doing what I should have done 3 years ago, Amanda." His voice was flat, devoid of the warmth I'd known for 18 years. 18 years. Nearly 2 decades of building a life together, and this was the grand finale. Him packing a bag while I stood there in my bathrobe, completely blindsided by a Tuesday morning ambush. "Stop, please." I grabbed his wrist, but he jerked away like my touch burned. "Don't make this dramatic. I'm leaving. Today. Now." When he finally met my eyes, what I saw made my blood run cold. There was nothing there. No guilt, no sadness, no hesitation. Just the cold calculation of someone who'd already checked out emotionally weeks ago. "I'm done, Amanda." Before we continue, I want to thank you for being here and sharing in these stories about family protection and justice. If you believe children deserve security and honesty, please consider subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach families who need to hear these messages. Now, let's see what young Ethan had been planning. My mind reeled. Yesterday, we'd been discussing Ethan's SAT prep courses over dinner. Yesterday, Thomas had complained about the lawn needing mowing. Yesterday, I was a wife. Today, I was... What exactly? Is there someone else? The question tumbled out before I could stop it. Thomas paused, a belt halfway into the bag. For just a fraction of a second, something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe? Shame? Then it vanished behind that cold mask. This isn't about another person. This is about me finally choosing myself. But I knew. The way he'd been sleeping with his phone under his pillow, the way dinner with the partners had become a weekly occurrence, the way he'd started wearing cologne to the office when he'd never cared about that before. All those tiny suspicions I'd been pushing down for months suddenly crashed over me like a wave. "Where are you going?" My voice came out small and pathetic. "I'll figure that out." He zipped the bag with finality. "I need you to wire my half of our savings to my personal account by end of business today." That's when real terror set in. The savings, Ethan's college fund, our retirement accounts, everything we'd built together over 18 years. I ran downstairs, my bare feet slapping against the cold tile. Ethan looked up from his protein shake, concern creasing his 14-year-old face. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Nothing, sweetie. Dad's just going on a business trip." The lie tasted like poison. I grabbed my tablet and pulled up our banking app with shaking hands. The screen loaded and my stomach dropped through the floor. Checking account, $412.67. Savings account, 0.0 balance. Ethan's college fund. Should have been 88,500. $0.0. No. The word barely made it past my lips. No, 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 no. I refreshed frantically. The numbers didn't change. I checked the transaction history. 5 days ago, while I was at my book club, Thomas had transferred everything. Not just his half, everything, including Ethan's entire future. My hands shook so badly I could barely type. I called the bank, praying this was some kind of system glitch. The representative confirmed my nightmare. Thomas had full access to all accounts. The transfers were completely legal. "Mom." Ethan's voice sounded distant, like he was speaking from underwater. "You're scaring me." I looked at my son, really looked at him. He was still in his track team warm-ups, his sandy hair still damp from his morning shower, his backpack sitting ready by the door. He had no idea his father had just stolen his entire future and walked away. Footsteps on the stairs. Thomas appeared, dragging his bag, and walked right past us like we were ghosts, heading straight for the front door. "That's it?" My voice came out stronger than I expected. 18 years and you just leave, like we're nothing." He stopped, hand on the doorknob. "I sent you an email. It explains everything." "I don't want an email. I want you to look at your son and explain why you're abandoning him. Ethan stood slowly, setting down his shake. He didn't cry, didn't run to Thomas, didn't beg him to stay. He just watched with those intelligent hazel eyes that had always been so much like his father's. Thomas glanced at Ethan for maybe 2 seconds. "You'll understand when you're older," he said. Then to me, "Don't make this messier than it needs to be." The door clicked shut. That soft click somehow louder than any slam could have been. Ethan and I stood in the sudden silence of our kitchen. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. Outside, a car engine started and drove away, taking 18 years of my life with it. "Is he coming back?" Ethan asked quietly. I wanted to lie, to protect him, to say Daddy just needed time. But looking at his face, I knew he already understood the truth. "I don't think so, baby." He nodded slowly, processing this the way he processed everything, with that careful, analytical mind of his. "Did he take our money?" How could he know to ask that? "Some of it," I said carefully. "My college fund too?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Ethan picked up his shake bottle, rinsed it in the sink, dried it, and put it in his bag. Then he turned to me with an expression I'd never seen on his young face, something beyond his years, something almost frightening in its calm certainty. "Mom, relax. I've already dealt with this." The words were so unexpected, so calmly delivered, that I almost laughed. Dealt with what? He was 14 years old. What could he possibly have dealt with? But something in his tone made me pause. No childish bravado, no empty reassurance, just quiet confidence, like he was sitting on a secret that would change everything. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Ethan grabbed his backpack and headed for the door. "My ride's here. We'll talk after school, okay?" And then he was gone, leaving me alone in a house that suddenly felt cavernous and strange, with questions I couldn't answer and a future I couldn't see. The house felt different without Thomas. Not just empty, but somehow watchful, like the walls themselves were waiting to see what would happen next. I cried at random moments, folding laundry and finding his old college t-shirt, seeing his coffee mug in the cabinet, hearing Ethan's alarm go off each morning from down the hall. But Ethan, he moved through our shattered world like nothing had changed. Every morning at 6:30 sharp, he'd appear in the kitchen fully dressed, backpack organized, breakfast already eaten. He'd kiss my cheek and say, "Have a good day, Mom," in the same cheerful tone he'd used when we were still a complete family. It was deeply unsettling. "Are you okay, honey?" I asked one morning, gently catching his arm as he headed for the door. He looked at me with those serious eyes. "I'm fine, Mom. Are you?" I wasn't fine. I was falling apart, but I couldn't burden him with that. "Just checking on you." "I know." He squeezed my hand. "But I'm really okay. Promise." That evening, I decided to call my best friend Rachel for advice. As I dialed, I could hear Ethan upstairs in his room, rapid fire typing, the sound drifting down through the ceiling. Probably gaming with friends or working on homework, I assumed. "Amanda, honey, how are you holding up?" Rachel's voice was thick with sympathy. "I honestly don't know," I admitted, sinking into the couch. "Ethan's being so strong about everything. Too strong. He hasn't cried even once, Rachel. Is that normal?" Some kids process grief differently. When my parents divorced, my brother cried for weeks, but I went completely numb for months. The typing upstairs stopped abruptly, then resumed with even more intensity. "What's that sound?" Rachel asked. "Ethan's on his computer. Homework, probably." But even as I said it, something nagged at me. The rhythm was too fast, too purposeful for homework, too focused for gaming. After hanging up with Rachel, I made Ethan's favorite dinner, lasagna and garlic bread. When I called him down around 7 p.m., he appeared looking completely relaxed. "How was school?" I asked, trying to sound normal. "Good. Got an A on my physics test." We ate in silence for a few minutes before I couldn't hold back anymore. "Ethan, about what you said that morning, about handling things, what did you mean?" He took a drink of water, considering his words carefully. "Dad thought he could just disappear and we'd be helpless, but I've been learning about cybersecurity and digital investigation for the past year. I know how to find information people try to hide." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. "Find information? What kind of information?" "Everything." His voice was calm, matter of fact. Where the money went, who he's with, what she's been hiding from everyone else. She? Natalie Sutherland. That's who Dad left us for. She's a financial advisor at his firm. Divorced 3 times, has 2 kids from her first marriage that she barely sees. Ethan cut his lasagna with precision. She's also been running an investment scam that's defrauded at least 20 families of their retirement savings. I set down my fork, suddenly unable to eat. Ethan, how could you possibly know all this? I've been monitoring Dad's devices for 8 months. I suspected something was going on, so I installed remote access software on his laptop and phone. I saw everything: his texts, his emails, his location history, his bank transfers. Ethan, that's illegal. Only if you use the information to commit crimes. He met my eyes directly. I'm not blackmailing anyone, Mom. I'm exposing criminals. Natalie has been using her position at the firm to operate a Ponzi scheme. She convinced Dad to invest our money, including my college fund, promising she'd quadruple it in 8 months. The pieces started falling into place. So our money is gone. She used it to pay off earlier investors. Classic pyramid scheme. Ethan's jaw tightened. But I've been documenting everything for weeks. Bank records, witness statements, email chains, forged investment documents. I sent everything to the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, the State Securities Commission, and 3 investigative journalists I found through Reddit. I couldn't breathe. My 14-year-old son had triggered a federal investigation. The story goes public tomorrow morning. Ethan continued, going back to his dinner. By lunchtime, Natalie Sutherland will be in federal custody. Dad's name will be all over the news as a co-conspirator. Co-conspirator? You mean he knew about the fraud? He helped her recruit victims, brought his co-workers to her investment seminars, vouched for her credibility. Ethan's voice hardened. He wasn't just leaving us, Mom. He was actively helping destroy other families to fund his new life. That night, I lay awake, my mind racing. David was out there somewhere, completely unaware of the tsunami about to crash down on him. Part of me felt vindicated, but another part, the part that had loved him for 18 years, felt something close to grief. At 6:45 the next morning, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Financial advisor arrested in $5.3 million investment fraud scheme. I clicked through. Natalie Sutherland's photo appeared, a polished woman in her mid-40s with a practiced smile. The article detailed her arrest at dawn, the mountain of evidence provided by an anonymous source, the dozens of families she'd victimized. Thomas's name appeared in paragraph 4. Sutherland's romantic partner, Thomas Warner, is also under investigation for his role in recruiting investors and may face charges of conspiracy to commit fraud. Ethan appeared for breakfast right on schedule, looking no different than any other morning. I saw the news, I said softly. He nodded, pouring cereal. The FBI did good work. They froze her assets before she could wire anything offshore. Ethan, are you absolutely sure about this? Once it's out there, there's no taking it back. He looked at me with eyes that suddenly seemed much older than 14. Mom, she stole from families with children, from elderly people trying to retire, from people who trusted her with everything they had. Someone had to stop her. He paused. And Dad helped her. He made his choice. Now he gets to live with the consequences. My phone rang. Thomas's name flashed on the screen. I looked at Ethan. He nodded once. I answered. Amanda. Thomas's voice was frantic, unrecognizable from the cold man who'd walked out a week ago. Have you seen the news? Natalie's been arrested. The FBI came to her apartment at 6 a.m. This is insane. I saw. They're saying I was involved, that I helped her. I'm under investigation. This is going to ruin my career, my reputation, everything. You ruined us first, I said calmly. You stole from your own son. That money was supposed to multiply. Natalie promised it was a sure thing. She lied, Thomas. She's a con artist. And you were either too stupid or too blinded to see it. This is your fault. His voice cracked with desperation. You were always so risk-averse, so afraid of anything bold. I was trying to build something bigger for us. By stealing our son's college fund? By running off with a criminal? I didn't know she was... Yes, you did. My voice stayed steady. You knew something was wrong. You just didn't care because you wanted her. Silence on the line. Then quietly, "Can I talk to Ethan?" I looked at my son. He was finishing his breakfast, watching me with that unreadable expression. I handed him the phone. "Hey, Dad." Ethan's voice was neutral, almost bored. I could hear Thomas's muffled voice through the speaker, but couldn't make out words. "No, I'm not okay," Ethan replied. "You stole $88,500 from me and abandoned us without explanation." More desperate pleading from Thomas. "I don't care that you didn't know about Natalie's fraud." Ethan's voice remained eerily calm. "You still stole from me. You still chose her over your family." A pause. "No, I won't ask Mom to help you with a lawyer. You're an adult. Deal with your own mess." Ethan's eyes went cold. "You picked her, so go be with her." "Oh, right, you can't. She's in federal custody." He hung up and handed me the phone. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah." He finished his juice. "I'm good." Over the next several days, the story exploded. More victims came forward, people who'd lost their life savings, their children's college funds, their retirement security. The investigation expanded to include money laundering, tax evasion, and identity theft. Natalie Sutherland wasn't just running a Ponzi scheme. She'd built an entire criminal empire. Thomas called repeatedly, first angry, accusing me of sabotaging him somehow, then desperate, begging for help hiring a defense attorney. Finally defeated, admitting he'd lost everything, his job, his apartment, his reputation. I never told him about Ethan. That our son had been the anonymous whistleblower, that a 14-year-old had dismantled his entire new life with surgical precision. 2 weeks after Natalie's arrest, there was a knock at our door. I opened it to find a woman in a dark suit holding an FBI badge. "Mrs. Warner, I'm Special Agent Rodriguez from the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. I need to ask you some questions about Natalie Sutherland and your ex-husband's activities." "I didn't know anything until he left," I said honestly. "He never discussed her or any investments with me." "I understand. And your son, Ethan?" My heart stopped. "What about him?" Agent Rodriguez smiled. "We'd like to thank him. The evidence package from the anonymous source, which we've traced to this IP address, was extraordinarily thorough. Without it, Ms. Sutherland might have continued defrauding families for years." I don't understand." "Your son is remarkably gifted, Mrs. Warner. The digital forensics work was professional grade, better than some of our junior agents, honestly." She handed me a business card. "When he's older, if he's interested in cybersecurity or law enforcement, we'd love to talk to him about opportunities." After Agent Rodriguez left, I went straight to Ethan's room. "The FBI knows it was you." He didn't look up from his homework. "I know. I left deliberate digital breadcrumbs so they could verify the source if needed. Anonymous tips are less credible in court. An identifiable witness, even a minor, carries more weight." "Ethan, you could have put yourself in danger. These are serious criminals." "Natalie's in jail, and Dad's cooperating with prosecutors to reduce his sentence. There's no danger." He finally looked at me. "Mom, I couldn't just let them get away with it, not just because of what they did to us, but because of all the other families they destroyed." I sat on his bed, looking at this person I'd raised, who'd somehow become someone I was only beginning to understand. "When did you become so angry?" he finished. "I've been angry since I first figured out Dad was lying to us. But anger without strategy is just noise. So I learned. I taught myself programming, network security, digital forensics, financial fraud patterns. I prepared." "You're 14 years old." "Age is just a number, Mom. Skill and determination are what matter." The following weeks brought rapid changes. Thomas pled guilty to conspiracy and fraud charges in exchange for testimony against Natalie. He got probation and community service but lost his CPA license, his job, and his freedom to leave the state. Natalie Sutherland received 15 years in federal prison. And Ethan? He became quietly famous in cybersecurity circles. A tech blog ran an article about the case, mentioning a teenage whistleblower whose exceptional digital investigation work broke the case wide open. Major tech companies started reaching out with offers. TechShield Security is offering full college tuition. Ethan told me one evening, showing me an email. plus a guaranteed position after graduation starting at $145,000 annually. I stared at the numbers on the screen. Ethan, this is incredible. This would set you up for life. I know. He closed the laptop without hesitation. I'm turning it down. What? Why? Because they want to own everything I create. They want me building surveillance software that monetizes people's fear instead of actually protecting them. He stood and walked to the window. Besides, I already have a job. What do you mean? Ethan pulled a business card from his backpack. Professional quality, crisp white cardstock. E. Warner, Family Asset Protection Consultant. I've been helping families secure their finances and recover from fraud for the past 6 weeks. I have 12 clients now, and they pay me $95 an hour for consultations. I took the card, studying the professional design. Ethan, you're 14. How are you running a consulting business? Age is irrelevant when you're working remotely. My clients think I'm an adult cybersecurity specialist with expertise in family financial protection. He pulled up a spreadsheet showing his income. I've already earned enough to replace half my college fund. The numbers were staggering. In 6 weeks, my teenage son had earned more than I made in 5 months as a legal secretary. What services do you provide? I help families identify financial red flags, secure their digital accounts, and recover stolen assets. Last week, I helped a family in Oregon recover $55,000 their uncle had embezzled from their mother's estate. Is this legal? Everything I do is completely legal. I educate people on self-protection and help them file proper reports with authorities when crimes occur. Ethan minimized the spreadsheet. I'm also presenting at a cybersecurity conference next month. As yourself? As Dr. E. Warner, Family Protection Specialist, I'll appear via encrypted video conference, so my age won't be an issue. That evening, I found myself reading about the Natalie Sutherland case online. The story had truly gone viral, shared across countless platforms and covered by national news. The comments ranged from outrage about the fraud to admiration for the anonymous hero who'd exposed it. One comment thread caught my attention. Hundreds of people sharing their own stories of family financial betrayal. Parents stealing from children, spouses hiding assets, relatives exploiting elderly family members. Ethan's actions had opened a floodgate. Nobody suspected the whistleblower was a 14-year-old boy. Friday evening, I was putting away Ethan's clean laundry when I saw it. A single sheet of paper on his desk, partially hidden under his calculus textbook. I shouldn't have looked, but something about the formatting caught my eye. It was a printed email thread. The names at the top made my blood freeze. Thomas and Natalie. My hand shook as I pulled it out. The messages were dated 3 weeks before Thomas left. They discussed meeting times, hotel reservations, and something about handling Amanda when the time comes. I sat hard on Ethan's bed, staring at the evidence in my trembling hands. My 14-year-old son had somehow accessed his father's private emails. How was that even possible? Mom! Ethan's voice from the doorway made me jump. He stood there with his empty dinner plate, looking at me with those calm, assessing eyes. No panic, no embarrassment at being caught. Just quiet observation. Ethan, where did this come from? He set his plate down and closed his bedroom door. Dad's terrible with passwords. He uses the same one for everything. Thunderbolt Yonpi's Huanhet, his favorite superhero in the year I was born. How did you... I stopped. How long have you known about Natalie? 8 months. About the money, I figured that out 2 days before he left. 8 months. While I'd been blissfully ignorant, my child had been carrying this knowledge alone. I felt sick. Why didn't you tell me? Ethan sat beside me on the bed. I wanted to be sure, and I wanted to figure out what to do about it. Adults make mistakes when they panic. I needed time to plan. Honey, this isn't your responsibility. Yes, it is. His voice was firm. He stole my college fund. He lied to both of us. Someone had to do something. I looked around his room with new eyes, his organized desk, his careful routine, his unnatural calm. Everything seemed different now. What else do you know? Ethan got up and pulled a thick spiral notebook from under his mattress. He handed it to me without hesitation. The pages were filled with meticulous handwritten notes, printed screenshots, network diagrams, lists of account numbers, timelines of events. This wasn't just evidence. This was a comprehensive investigation. Ethan, what is all this? Research, documentation. He sat back down. Dad thinks he's clever, but he's sloppy. He uses the same password everywhere. He doesn't clear his browser history. He doesn't even log out of his accounts when he's done. I flipped through page after page. Financial records, text message screenshots, travel itineraries, bank transfers. My son had been conducting surveillance on his own father. I struggled for words. This is incredible and terrifying. Most of it came from YouTube tutorials and Reddit forums. Computer security is actually really interesting once you understand the basics. He paused. And once you have motivation. Ethan, this kind of thing, accessing someone's accounts without permission, it's illegal. He looked at me with that too mature expression. So is stealing $88,500 from your son's college fund. So is identity theft. So is securities fraud. The matter-of-fact way he said it sent chills down my spine. This wasn't my little boy anymore. This was someone calculating and focused and completely unafraid. What are you planning to do with all this information? Ethan took the notebook back and closed it carefully. Most of it's already done, but don't worry, Mom. He met my eyes. I've got everything under control. There was that phrase again, the same words he'd said the morning Thomas walked out. But now they carried a weight that made me realize I might not know my own son as well as I thought. Show me everything, I said, my voice barely steady. Ethan hesitated for the first time since this nightmare began. Mom, some of it's pretty bad. Show me. He opened his laptop and pulled up a folder labeled AP Computer Science Final Project. Inside were dozens of subfolders with clinical names, financial records, communication, logs, identity theft, evidence, fraud documentation. My stomach clenched. It started when I found Dad's second phone, Ethan said, clicking through folders. He thought he'd hidden it in his closet, but I saw him checking it one night when he thought I was asleep. The screen filled with photographs Ethan had taken through his father's bedroom door, blurry but clear enough to show Thomas texting on a device I'd never seen. I waited until he left it charging in his office. I only had about 12 minutes, but that was enough to clone the SIM card and install remote access software. A new window opened, filled with screenshot after screenshot of text conversations. My husband's words to another woman, talking about me like I was an obstacle to eliminate, planning their future together, discussing how to handle the Amanda situation without losing too much in a divorce. I thought I might vomit. It gets worse, Mom. Ethan clicked to another folder. Natalie Sutherland works at Dad's firm. She's a senior financial advisor who handles high net worth client investments and trust accounts. You found out where she works? I found out everything about her. Address, family history, employment records, credit score, even her streaming service passwords. Ethan's voice remained clinical. She's been embezzling money from client accounts for over 3 years. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank transfers showing money flowing from client accounts into personal ones. Forged invoices for services never rendered. Investment statements that didn't match actual account balances. Ethan had somehow penetrated Natalie's work computer and documented everything. Ethan, how did you even access their systems? Natalie uses the same password for everything. Sutherland and Donna 95. Her maiden name and her birth year. I found her LinkedIn profile, got her birth year, then tried common password variations. Took me 11 tries. He shrugged like it was obvious. People are predictable. I stared at my son, this stranger sitting beside me. But how did you learn to do all this? YouTube mostly, some programming forums, Discord servers about ethical hacking. There's so much information available if you know how to look. He clicked to another folder, and my world tilted sideways again. Bank statements with my name on them, but accounts I'd never opened. Credit applications filed under Ethan's social security number. Loan documents with forged signatures. Mom, Dad didn't just take our money. Ethan's jaw tightened. He's been using our identities to get loans. The $88,500 from my college fund. That was just the down payment on a $250,000 construction loan he took out in my name. What? The word barely made it out. He and Natalie are buying a vacation property in Costa Rica. They used my credit history, which is blank, so it's perfect, and your employment information to secure financing. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. They were going to disappear to Central America and leave us holding the debt. Bankruptcy, ruined credit, everything. The room spun. Identity theft, fraud, conspiracy. My husband hadn't just abandoned us. He'd systematically destroyed our financial future to build a tropical paradise with his mistress. But here's the thing, Ethan continued, and I heard something new in his voice. Cold satisfaction. I caught them before they could close on the property. He opened a folder labeled Countermeasures. Inside were dozens of official-looking documents, fraud reports filed with credit bureaus, complaints submitted to the SEC and banking regulators, anonymous tips sent to Natalie's employer, whistleblower reports to the FBI. I've been working on this for 5 weeks, Ethan explained. First, I documented everything with timestamps and digital signatures to prove authenticity. Then I started systematically dismantling their plans. What do you mean? Well, Natalie got suspended from work 3 days ago. Her managing partner received an anonymous email with evidence of her embezzlement, complete with client account statements and internal transfer records. Her clients are pulling their money. The state securities board launched an investigation. She'll probably lose her license. My mouth fell open. You did that? She stole money from elderly people trying to retire, Mom, from disabled veterans, from families saving for their kids' education. Ethan's voice was steady, righteous. She deserved it. And that's just the beginning. He showed me more files. The fraudulent accounts opened in our names had been flagged and frozen by credit agencies. The Costa Rica property purchase had been denied after the bank received tips about suspicious financing. Natalie's landlord had started eviction proceedings after receiving an anonymous complaint about illegal activity. But the best part, Ethan said, clicking to a final folder, is what I sent to her father. Her father? Dr. Richard Sutherland. He's a prominent cardiac surgeon who's very protective of his family's reputation. He received a very detailed certified letter about his daughter's criminal activities, along with copies of all the evidence, with a note suggesting he might want to intervene before she goes to prison. I felt dizzy. Ethan, what have you done? I've protected us. He closed the laptop and looked at me directly. Dad thought he could steal from us and walk away clean. He thought we'd be too broken and stupid to fight back. He was wrong. But sweetheart, this kind of thing, going after people like this, it's dangerous. More dangerous than letting them destroy our lives? Ethan stood and walked to his window. Mom, they didn't just take our money. They took my future. They took your security. They took everything we worked for, and they gave it to themselves without a second thought. I watched my 14-year-old son, his frame silhouetted against the darkening sky, and realized he was absolutely right. While I'd been crying and calling Thomas's voicemail, begging him to come home, Ethan had been fighting for us. What happens now? I asked. Ethan turned back to me. In the dim light of his room, he looked older than his years. Now we wait. Natalie's world is collapsing, and she doesn't even understand why yet. When Dad realizes what's happening, he'll panic. And when people panic, they make mistakes. How can you be so calm about all this? Because I'm not the one who has to be scared anymore, he said simply. They are. That night, I lay awake thinking about the child sleeping down the hall. He'd saved us, but at what cost? What kind of person had my son become in the process? And more frightening still, what else was he capable of? Around midnight, I heard it again. The soft, steady clicking of keyboard keys. Ethan was still working, still planning, still protecting us in ways I couldn't fully comprehend. I should have felt grateful. Instead, I felt afraid. The phone rang at exactly 2:47 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. I was at my desk at the law firm when Thomas's name flashed across my cell screen. My hands were shaking when I answered. Amanda. Thomas's voice was different, strained, desperate, nothing like the cold man who'd left us. We need to talk. Something very strange is happening. I glanced around the empty break room. What kind of strange? My bank called this morning. All my accounts have been flagged for suspicious activity. They've frozen everything pending a federal review. His words tumbled out, rushed and panicked. And Natalie, Amanda, Natalie lost her job yesterday. Security escorted her out. They're accusing her of embezzlement. I walked to the window, my heart racing. I don't understand what that has to do with me. It's too much of a coincidence. First, Natalie gets fired for some bogus fraud claim. Now my finances are under investigation. Someone's targeting us, Amanda. Someone with serious technical skills. I thought about Ethan, probably sitting in his chemistry class right now, looking like any other high school freshman while he'd orchestrated all of this. Who would do something like that? I asked, though I already knew. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Natalie thinks it might be someone from her office, maybe a coworker she rejected or... Thomas stopped talking suddenly. What was that sound? I frowned. What sound? There was a notification chime, like someone just accessed my email. His voice shifted to pure alarm. Amanda, someone's in my computer right now. I can see my inbox opening and closing in real time. Someone's reading my messages while we're talking. At home, Ethan was probably sitting at his desk, fingers moving across his keyboard with practiced precision, watching everything Thomas did in real time. Thomas, maybe you should hang up and call your IT department. No, wait. I need to ask you something directly. His voice turned suspicious. Amanda, did you hire someone? A private investigator or a hacker? Because if you did, you need to call them off right now. What they're doing is illegal, and it could get you in serious trouble. I didn't hire anyone, I said truthfully. Then who? His voice cut off, replaced by frantic keyboard sounds on his end. Someone just sent an email from my account. To my boss. Amanda, they're impersonating me. What did the email say? I can't. Everything's happening too fast. His breathing became labored. They're in my social media now. They're posting things. Financial documents, private messages between me and Natalie. Oh God, they're posting everything. I could imagine Ethan systematically uploading evidence to Thomas's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, making sure everyone in his professional network saw exactly what he'd done. Thomas, you need to contact the police. You think I haven't tried? His voice cracked. The police said if the information being posted is true, it's not harassment, it's whistleblowing. But how would anyone have access to real financial documents unless they were... He stopped. Unless they were inside my actual accounts. The realization was hitting him. Someone wasn't posting fake information. Someone was posting real evidence of his crimes. Amanda, I need you to understand something. His voice was desperate now. The money I took, I was planning to pay it back with interest. Natalie and I were going to flip the Costa Rica property, and then I was going to quietly replace everything. Plus more. Nobody was supposed to get hurt. But you did take it, without permission. It was an investment, a calculated risk. He was nearly shouting now. Natalie's father was threatening to cut her off if she didn't prove financial independence. She needed that money to show him she was serious about her career. So you stole our son's college fund to impress your girlfriend's father. It wasn't stealing, it was... The line went dead. When I tried calling back, it went straight to voicemail. I made an appointment with Dr. Patricia Reeves, a child psychologist who specialized in family trauma and gifted children, for the following week. Dr. Reeves's office was decorated in calming earth tones, with children's artwork covering one wall. I expected Ethan to be nervous, but he walked in like he was attending a business meeting. Ethan, I'm Dr. Reeves. Your mom thought it might be helpful for us to chat about the changes in your family. That's fine. I understand this is probably mandatory after what I did to my father. Dr. Reeves blinked, clearly not expecting such directness. Can you tell me about that? For the next hour, Ethan calmly explained everything. He described discovering Thomas's affair, documenting financial crimes, systematically dismantling his father's and Natalie's lives. He spoke without visible emotion, presenting facts like a prosecutor laying out a case. How did that make you feel? Dr. Reeves asked. Satisfied, Ethan replied immediately. He stole from me, so I made sure there were consequences. Justice was served. It felt right. Do you ever feel sad about your father leaving? I feel sad that he chose to become the kind of person who steals from his own child, but I don't feel sad about him facing the results of that choice. That's just cause and effect. When the session ended, Dr. Reeves asked to speak with me privately. Mrs. Warner, your son is remarkable, she began carefully. His cognitive abilities are exceptional, and his emotional resilience is extraordinary. But is it healthy? I asked. Should a child be able to do what he did without feeling guilty or traumatized? Trauma responses vary widely, especially in highly intelligent children. Ethan has experienced significant betrayal and abandonment, but he's processed it in a remarkably functional way. Dr. Reeves leaned forward. Some children fall apart when faced with this level of family dysfunction. Others, particularly those with strong analytical abilities, respond by taking control of their environment. It's actually a very adaptive response. So he's okay? He's more than okay. He's thriving. The question is whether you're comfortable with who he's becoming. That evening, I found Ethan in his room working on his laptop. But when I looked over his shoulder, it wasn't surveillance software or hacking tools. It was a Microsoft Word document titled Digital Financial Safety for Families, a Comprehensive Guide to Protection and Recovery. What's this, sweetheart? I'm writing a guide for other kids whose parents might be stealing from them and for adults who don't know how to spot financial fraud. He scrolled down, showing me detailed sections about password security, recognizing forged documents, protecting personal information, identifying Ponzi schemes, and reporting financial crimes. The document was sophisticated, clearly written, and incredibly thorough. Ethan, this is amazing. Where did you learn to write like this? I've been researching family financial fraud for months. You'd be surprised how common it is. He saved the document. Mrs. Patterson, the guidance counselor, asked me to present this to the Parent Association next month. Apparently, 4 other families at my school have discovered similar problems. I stared at the screen, reading his clear, practical advice. He wasn't just surviving what Thomas had done. He was transforming it into something that could protect others. How do you feel about presenting to adults? Nervous but excited. Most people don't understand how easy it is to protect yourself once you know what to look for. He closed the laptop. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you ashamed of what I did to Dad? The question caught me completely off guard. Ashamed? Ethan, you saved us. You protected our family when I couldn't. But you've been looking at me differently, like you're worried about me. I sat on his bed, choosing my words carefully. I'm not worried about what you did, sweetheart. I'm worried about what it cost you. What you accomplished was incredible, but it required you to become someone harder, more calculating than any child should have to be. Do you think I'm damaged? No. The answer came immediately. I think you're stronger than I ever imagined, but I also think that strength came with a price, and I want to make sure you're at peace with who you're becoming. Ethan leaned against me, and for a moment he felt like my little boy again. I don't feel damaged, Mom. I feel like I finally understand how the world really works. Knowledge is power. Understanding threats means you can defend against them. What about helping others? That's why I'm writing the guide. If I can help other families avoid what we went through, then maybe something good came from Dad's choices. I was restocking books in the children's section of Miller Community Library when my supervisor approached with a nervous expression. Amanda, there's a reporter here asking questions about your son, Linda whispered, glancing toward the front desk where a woman in a professional suit waited with a recording device. My heart stopped. What kind of reporter? She says she's investigating the Natalie Sutherland embezzlement case. Apparently, someone told her the anonymous whistleblower might be connected to our area. I walked to the front desk on unsteady legs. The reporter smiled professionally and extended her hand. Mrs. Warner, I'm Jessica Chen from Channel 9 News. I'm doing a follow-up story on the Sutherland financial fraud scandal. I understand your ex-husband was involved. I can't comment on ongoing legal matters, I said quickly. The story has gained national attention. Natalie Sutherland is facing federal charges, and multiple other victims have come forward. Someone was incredibly thorough in documenting everything. She paused. We'd love to thank whoever provided the evidence. The impact on protecting other families has been extraordinary. After she left, I drove home with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Ethan was at the kitchen table doing homework when I walked in. There was a reporter at the library today asking about the Sutherland case, I said carefully. Ethan didn't look up from his calculus. They won't connect it to me. I use 7 different proxy servers and cryptocurrency for all anonymous communications. The digital trail goes cold in 3 different countries. Ethan, it's fine, Mom. Really? He finished the problem. The more media attention the case gets, the more other victims come forward. That's a good thing. 12 additional families have contacted authorities about Natalie's fraudulent investment schemes. The casual way he discussed his nationwide impact on financial crime investigations still caught me off guard. My 14-year-old son had triggered a federal investigation that was now protecting dozens of families, and he talked about it like a successful science fair project. 4 months into our new reality, Ethan asked me something that stopped me cold. Mom, do you think Dad ever regrets what he did? We were loading the dishwasher after dinner, and I nearly dropped the plate I was holding. It was the first time he'd mentioned Thomas in weeks. I don't know, honey. Why do you ask? I still monitor his social media. He posts about new beginnings and learning from mistakes, but he never mentions us. Ethan dried a glass carefully. I was wondering if he actually understands what he lost. What do you think? Ethan considered this for a long moment. I think regret is just self-pity when consequences arrive. It's not the same as understanding why what you did was wrong. Do you want him to regret it? No, I want him to understand it, but I don't think he's capable of that kind of self-awareness. He folded the towel and hung it precisely. Some people never get there. The conversation was clearly over for him, filed away like everything else about his father. Summer arrived with unexpected warmth and hope. Ethan's consulting business continued to grow. He'd started creating free educational resources, detailed guides on protecting family finances from fraud, comprehensive checklists for identifying financial abuse, step-by-step instructions for reporting different types of financial crimes. I want to turn this into a nonprofit when I'm 18, he told me one evening while coding his latest project. A foundation that provides free protection services to families who can't afford private consultants. That's a beautiful goal, Ethan. It started because of what Dad did to us, but it's become something bigger. There are thousands of families being victimized by people they trust. If I can help even a fraction of them, maybe something good came from all this. One evening, I was reading in the living room when I heard Ethan on a video call in his room. I paused outside his door, listening. I know it's terrifying discovering your stepfather has been using your trust fund, he was saying gently, but you're going to be okay. I'll help you protect what's left and make sure this never happens again. I realized he was talking to another teenager, someone whose family was being torn apart the same way ours had been. Ethan had become a lifeline for kids whose parents had betrayed them. The most important thing to remember, Ethan continued, is that this isn't your fault. Parents are supposed to protect their children, not steal from them. When they fail at that job, we have to protect ourselves and each other. I walked away from his door with tears streaming down my face, not from sadness, but from overwhelming pride. Thomas had tried to break us, but instead he'd forged something unbreakable. Ethan had transformed his pain into purpose, his trauma into a mission to protect other families. The next morning, Ethan appeared at breakfast looking like any other high school freshman. But I knew better now. Underneath that normal teenage exterior was someone extraordinary. Someone who'd taken the worst betrayal imaginable and turned it into a force for justice and protection. Ready for school? I asked, kissing his forehead. Always, he said, shouldering his backpack. Oh, and Mom? Yes, honey? I love you. Thank you for believing in me. I love you too, sweetheart, so much. As I watched him walk to the bus stop, I realized something profound. Thomas's betrayal hadn't destroyed our family. It had revealed what we were truly made of. Ethan had won more than justice. He'd won his future and was using it to secure the futures of countless other families. Thomas could keep whatever scraps remained of his ruined life. We'd built something infinitely more valuable from the ashes he'd left behind. We'd built hope, and Ethan was sharing it with the world, one family at a time. If this story of a 14-year-old's digital justice moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. My favorite part was when Ethan calmly told his father, "You picked her, so go be with her." "Oh, right, you can't. She's in federal custody." What moment resonated with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't miss more stories about family protection and justice. subscribe, and hit that notification bell.